Chapter 21. Your name is Liar. Where are the others? I asked as Rico and I climbed into the back of a Coyote van. The seats had been removed. The van had an Arizona plate. Jara gave me a scornful look. The others? That's nothing you need to know. In the back of the van were two large backpacks overflowing with packages of tortillas and canned goods, mostly meat and fish. We sat on a big cooler with no ice that was filled with gallon jugs of water. You might have been wondering why I didn't invite one of you to sit up front in the passenger seat, Jar called as he drove out a Sasabe. My friend is sitting next to me. Who is your friend? Rico asked. Jara reached over and picked something up off the seat. A big pistol in a holster. Recognize it? Should we? Border Patrol gun, .40 caliber, Beretta, semi-automatic, 11 rounds in the magazine, reloads in a heartbeat. The Mosquito put the gun down and reached for a CD. He turned the volume high as it would go. Some punk like himself rapping about the Border Patrol committing crimes against innocent muchachos. Jar rapped along as he fishtailed around the curves on the washboard road, leaving behind a rooster tail of dust. Hang on, Rico said. We had to brace to keep from falling to the floor. I told myself to remember that millions of wets, including Rico's father and mine, had been at the mercy of coyotes. Still, it was impossible not to loathe Jara. For such a vile person to sport El Cristo Rey on his chest, this was a terrible sin. For the time being, I didn't have to look at his tattoos. Our driver was wearing a tan soccer jersey to blend in with the desert. His stupid purple forelock was sticking out from above the strap on a green baseball cap worn backwards. Gone were the gold chains around his neck, the diamond studs in his ear. The chicken wrangler wanted to blend in with his chickens in case he got caught. There's room for another 15 or 20 mojados in here, I joked to Rico. What's the deal? Seriously, why just us? Who knows? He grunted. Rico was looking very unhappy. I guess we'll pick some up along the way to our starting point, I said. Why all this food and water? Why didn't we have to supply our own? Rico didn't bother to answer. If he was annoyed, how was I to feel? He called his brother without even bringing it up, arranged all of this in my name without ever including me. And then there was the $1,500 hanging over my head. Easy for him, but how was I going to repay it? I turned my attention to the rugged Babo Quavari Mountains, rising sharply from the desert plain. We skirted the foot of them and continued west, in and out of many gullies, on the Mexican side of the Indian reservation. The road had a lot of traffic for an area so thinly settled. We hadn't yet laid eyes on a ranchero. Jara must have been bored. Suddenly, he turned the music down. Hey, Vila, he called, meaning me. Zapata told me you thought you two could cross the border all by yourselves, hike through the desert, just the two of you. I thought we could, I admitted. That's crazy, Vila, especially in the death season. What's that, Mosquito? If you have to ask, you wouldn't have lasted 2 days. Death season is May until October. Have you checked the calendar lately? The Mosquito started laughing, then said, We'll find out soon enough what you're made of, Vila. Zapata said you could handle it. I'm not so sure. Victor Flores is my name. You are a runt, Vila. With a name like Flowers, I think you are also too weak. Who cares what you think, I said, as long as you get me through. Jara bristled. You ought to show some respect. I don't like your attitude. Shut up and drive, I wanted to say. Suddenly, Jara was slowing. He seemed to be looking for a turnoff. We had passed many dirt tracks heading north toward the border, but he was looking south, which made no sense. Jara did turn left to the south onto a road so rough he had to go into four-wheel drive. The road wound through the brush like a sidewinder. I guessed I guess we were about to pick up a group of Mojados who had been stashed where there was shelter and water. We parked with the engine off and waited for half an hour. To the north and west, the sun was going down fast, starting to flatten above the horizon. The sun had just set when we heard the drone of an airplane. It seemed to be getting closer and closer. Through the brush, we caught a glimpse of a small white single-engine plane as it came in for a landing. An emergency landing, I thought. There was no airport here, no airstrip. I was wrong. Jara fired up the motor and we rolled ahead. Another couple of gullies and the airstrip was right in front of us. It was rough, crudely hacked out of the cactus and mesquite. The plane had landed safely. Are you going to fly us to Tuscan? I joked to Jara. Time to make yourself useful, he snarled, driving up to the airplane. I looked at Rico, but he didn't have any answers. We rolled back to the side door of the van and got out as Jara threw open the back. His pistol was stuck under his belt. How many? Jara yelled at the pilot who had moved to the back of the plane and opened the side door. 13 as arranged, the pot-bellied pilot yelled back. He was sweating and he looked nervous. Let's go. I want to get out of here. He stooped to lift a heavy package down to Jara. It was bigger than the bag of cement and entirely wrapped in brown plastic packing tape. Hey, you two, Jara yelled at us. I hand them to you, you pack them in the back of the van. Hurry up. By this time, I had figured out why the pilot was so nervous and in such a hurry. Drugs, I whispered to Rico. Just do what he says, Rico said from the side of his mouth. Jara flicked his donkey tail. Hurry, help me with these bales. I was about to say no and see what happened. Don't do anything stupid, Rico said. He'll shoot you. 1,040 pounds of prime mota. Jara crowed as we drove off a few minutes later. Jara crowed. The plane was already airborne. Jara started playing a CD really loud and pounding on the steering wheel. Where's he going with this marijuana? I asked Rico quietly. No idea, Rico said. You think he's going to drop it off, then take us to meet our group? Rico shook his head, whatever that meant. Jara turned the sound down. What's up with you mules back there? I'm no mule, I said. But suddenly, everything came into focus. I gave Rico a hard look, which he ignored. Remember, Jara, Rico said, we're only carrying food or water. Jara turned around and grinned like a smiling dog. Oh, excuse me, I forgot. What difference does it make? Jara turned the music up again. I glared at Rico. What's going on? Come on, tell me. Didn't you say Ronaldo put up the money? I told you before, I never had his phone number. You lied to me? It was for your own good. We work off what we owe. One trip, that's all we have to make. They wanted us to make 2, but I made them agree to 1, and we don't have to carry the drugs. As if that will make any difference. If we get caught helping drug smugglers, we'll go to prison, maybe for the rest of our lives. Idiot, what were you thinking? I thought my name was Rico. It's Liar, I said. Your name is Liar. How could you do this to me, to my family? You betrayed me. Settle down. It's for your own good. We didn't stand a chance in the desert, just the 2 of us. How are we going to find water? Tell me that. You know where the water is. They know where the water is. They'll have transportation for us all the way to Tuscan. How were we going to get to Tuscan? You said we were going to take our chances catching a ride with the Indians, remember? Well, I got us a ride, so settle down. We were in a desperate situation. If I told you, you wouldn't have gone along. You're right about that. You'll thank me later. I'll thank you right now. Thanks for nothing, Mono. I had nothing more to say to him. I was angrier than I had been in my whole life. Furious. I thought about bailing out of the van into the darkness, but my backpack was out of reach and Jara was watching me closely in the mirror. If I got away without him shooting me down, what then? Even if I made it back to Sasabe, how was I going to start over and cross the border? Rico knew all this, knew I'd have to stick with him. I was so upset. I hadn't been following the twists and turns the van was taking in the dark with no headlights. We've been climbing gradually, and the rocks have been getting bigger. At the last, Jara drove into the enclosure of gigantic boulders, like a bandit hideaway, which is what it turned out to be. 2 other vehicles were parked there, with shadowy figures milling around behind the glow of cigarettes. As soon as we drove in, they started unloading the bales from the back of our van. The mules looked rough, like the hardened criminals they no doubt were. They used bungee cords to attach the drug bales to wooden pack frames with canvas shoulder straps. Those 2 huge backpacks we were supposed to carry, stuffed full of food, felt like they were loaded with rocks. I jammed my pocket knife and pliers in an outside pocket. With our own backpacks with food, water, and clothes were going to be left behind. The mules were saddling up. We did the same. I could barely lift my pack to my knees and swing it onto my shoulders. I staggered, but I stood. Everybody bent to pick up a gallon jug of water. Rico and I did the same. A man with a scar through his mustache came over and told us he was the boss. Morales is my name, he said. I don't know you from anybody, but we lost a couple of men. What is this about you carrying only food? Rico got us into this. He was going to have to do the explaining. Jara promised, Rico said lamely. Morales spat on Rico's shoes. What are you, migrant farmers, or simply fools? Fools, Rico said. Morales showed his teeth and laughed. For now, you fools can carry the food. Those packs are at least as heavy as a bale of mota. I'm going to be watching you 2 very carefully. Don't mess with me, or you won't live to regret it. Wonderful, I said. When Morales was at a safe distance, Rico wasn't saying a thing. The mule train started out under a brilliant full moon. It numbered 17, 13 carrying the mota, 2 of us carrying the food, and 2 gangsters with light backpacks. Unlike the poleros who smuggle people, the drug smugglers were armed. Morales walked in front with an assault rifle. It had one of those big curving ammunition clips. No doubt he had extra clips in his backpack. Jara, taking up the rear, had the semi-automatic handgun at his hip. The pace was brutal, the weight of my back crushing, the route wound among car-sized boulders always uphill. The night was hot. I was breathing hard and dripping with sweat. It took less than an hour to reach the border. It felt like an eternity. We passed the packs across and crawled underneath. Only 4 strands here. Morales and Jara disguised our tracks on both sides of the fence. We saddled up and started into Arizona. Once again, I had crossed the wire.